everyone. Welcome back. And at this point, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Maggie Millwood. She's a certified holistic nutritionist, a natural health educator, alternative wellness practitioner specializing in holistic health around blood sugar management and cancer support balance for the whole person. She's the founder of a holistic health and wellness service business called Perfect Health Solutions, a virtually operated alternative holistic health and wellness service business in Hamilton, Ontario. Maggie seeks to educate, equip, and encourage her clients to take charge of their health and well-being using food as medicine. In her practice, she focuses on complementary and integrative natural health approaches, helping mainly postmenopausal women to reset, renew, and restore their health. Maggie's a wellness warrior, an anti-cancer and natural health advocate who believes that the body, if given the chance, has the power to heal itself. Identifying the root cause of symptoms, Maggie focuses on holistically rebalancing the well-being of her clients' mind, body, and soul. In her individualized protocols, Maggie incorporates nutrient-dense foods, therapeutic supplementation, and targeted lifestyle recommendations to deliver perfect health solutions, transforming her clients' imbalances from dis-ease to holistic wellness. And with no further ado, we welcome Maggie, and I'm looking forward to another incredibly informative and very engaging presentation. Thank you, Maggie, for being here. Right over to you.
It's my absolute pleasure to be here and to participate with the wonderful partners of Roots Community Services, the Walnut Foundation, and the Olive Branch of Hope. I am so thrilled that you guys are putting together such a wonderful symposium, especially in Black History Month, showing how much you love your communities, love our West Indian, Afro-Caribbean people, to bring them such important facts around health, and in particular, the month of love. Heart health, the spiritual and the emotional heart is not to be ruled out. So, of course, we talked a lot about the physical heart today. But just the understanding of how important it is to nourish your mind, body, and soul. I hope this is something that I can deliver to you guys with clarity today. I have just about 25 minutes with you, which I'm very excited about. So my topic today is heart health nutrition, as invited to speak with an emphasis on the power of plant-based nutrition. Thank you for your wonderful, warm welcome, Kristen. I really appreciate that. So just a little bit quick background. You heard all about me. I'm the founder of Perfect Health Solutions. I'm a natural health educator. I like to think of myself as a heart-centered practitioner, pun intended, for this purpose. And I love helping my clients and people in general to take charge of their health, to understand that food can be medicinal, and that as we take in our food, we are to remember that we can take it in with a strategic purpose to making it more medicinal in the body. I'm just setting my time, I forgot. Okay, so as mentioned, I focus mostly on postmenopausal people, women rather, around blood sugar management, helping with support for diabetes, cancer, and of course, there is a cascade of symptoms called metabolic syndrome, which I will address as we speak. But essentially, if certain conditions are not taken in hand, it leads to a cascade or a cluster of other symptoms that can take you down a slippery slope of ill health. Just a little bit personal stuff about me. I love creating meals and recipes. I'm going to share one with you later on. I hope you'll take a picture of it. It's a really simple one. I have 11 siblings, one of whom passed away and now lives in my heart. I like to look in life on the sunny side, and I love doing small things with great love. So what is holistic nutrition? Essentially, it is allowing the foods that we eat and the lifestyle that we follow to absorb that into our life, literally, from a therapeutic perspective, so that our bodies will rebalance and find healing. Holistic meaning the whole person, mind, body, and soul. And of course, nutrition meaning to nourish the whole body, mind, and soul. I do not treat or diagnose disease, just to be very clear. And my whole goal around providing my clients with good health is to help them to build and sustain a great relationship with wholesome, nutrient-dense foods and healthy habits and practices for the whole body. Thomas Edison, the same gentleman that invented the light bulb, said, "The doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather will cure and prevent disease with nutrition." He wasn't completely wrong in that statement, because more and more we're finding that as things become difficult and stressful to the conventional medical system, it is more and more important for the individual to take charge of their health, to get to know their bodies, and to build that level of awareness around their own well-being, what works for them. So since we're looking at heart health today, I wanted to bring your attention to the cardiovascular system. Dr. Wayne Batchelor did such a wonderful rollout of what the whole heart means and the underlying elements of what causes cardiovascular ill health. But I just wanted to remind you from a different perspective about your cardiovascular system. So here you have the heart, the blood vessels in the blood. Simply put, that is your cardiovascular system. And as he reminded us, the heart pumps oxygen through the blood. It gets into your cells. It leaves your cells with waste and deoxygenated blood, which gets sent to the lungs, removes the waste, and gets repumped into the heart. Our bodies, if it's an average healthy body, pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood through your body daily. 2,000 gallons, which translated loosely is about 7,500 liters of blood that pumps through the average adult body. So literally what that means is that your blood is a transportation system for all your nutrients and your hormones. And your blood is also a transportation system for waste to leave the body. In this instance, for this particular talk, through the lungs. And your heart acts as a pump. So your heart is consistently pushing the blood through, getting the circulation going. Oxygen is always traveling through the body. And blood is a liquid, and I'm stressing that because blood depends on a certain liquid that we take in also to allow it to flow well. Can anyone tell me what that is? I'm guessing you will share it in the chat. Here's some Canadian statistics for us since we're here in Canada. The data comes from the years 2017 to 2018, which implies that approximately 1 in 12 Canadian adults, so about at the time 2.6 million Canadian adults aged 20 and over, are living with diagnosed heart disease. Almost every hour, 14 Canadian adults between the ages over 20 are not only diagnosed with heart disease, but we find that they are actually going through cardiac arrest. And in other words, they're dying. Heart disease, which is also known as coronary heart disease or ischemic heart disease, refers to the buildup of plaque in the heart's arteries that we heard about earlier by Dr. Batchelor that could lead to heart attack, heart failure, or death. This is derived from the Canadian Chronic Disease Surveillance System report. Good old technology again. So let's get to the heart of the matter. So the audience that is listening in, for the most part, from our wonderful partners in this symposium are people of color, people from Afro-Caribbean communities, West Indian backgrounds, African heritage. And so we want to just zoom in on what's happening within our own culture and background. Black men, for example, have a 70% higher risk of heart failure compared to white men. The studies are shown from the Cleveland Clinic around ethnicity and heart disease. Black women have a 50% higher risk of heart failure compared with white women. That's almost half of the result for what would normally be true for a Caucasian female. Black women are more likely than white women to have a heart attack. And the question is why, which we can address later on. Black adults are more than twice as likely as white adults to be hospitalized for heart failure. They also spend longer in the hospital and are more likely to be admitted again within 90 days. Again, the question is why? Black adults are more likely than white adults to die from a heart attack. So this is very scary for our community. I'm sure as you read this and absorb that information, it gives you cause for concern. But the truth is, there are things that you and I can do to help to prevent this, even from the perspective, again, references Dr. Blatchler's study where he gave us that link that we can check and assess for ourselves what the likelihood of our risk would be for illness culminating in heart disease. So I want to just spend some time focusing on one particular cause. A root cause is inflammation. Now, inflammation can be very good for the body when it's acute, when it's short term. If it becomes a cascade of events where it is a long-term inflammatory position in the body, which is known as chronic or silent inflammation, that's where it becomes a problem. And usually that stems from us not knowing that we have inflammation, not knowing what to do about how to fix it. Also, chronic inflammation is quiet until it isn't. So sometimes we begin to have symptoms and then we start to complain about pain and aches. But essentially, inflammation is at the root cause, not just of cardiovascular disease, but of all diseases. So the Latin word inflammare means to set on fire. So literally, it's like we're experiencing an internal fire in the body. And that can be similar to if you got a cut in your skin and it's red and swollen and it's painful. That's the same thing that's happening internally, except we can't see it. So heat, redness, swelling, and pain are key symptoms of inflammation. When it's acute, we can fix it quickly and it gets solved. If we can't see it, sometimes we can't fix it. So the difference between short-term acute inflammation is like a forest fire versus long-term silent chronic inflammation, the smoldering embers in a forest fire that you can't see that can reignite at the drop of a hat. A lot of things that stem out of inflammation is the chemical reactions in the body, known as oxidation from chemical reactions. When oxidation happens, it's like you have a rusty gate and you're seeing the rust break down on a metal gate. That's what's happening on the inside of our bodies when we refer to oxidation. And little molecules that are unhinged or unstable, called free radicals, bounce around like little pellets in a balloon and cause cellular damage. When that happens over a long period of time, chronic inflammation becomes the truth for your own body. So that's how inflammation develops. And silent inflammation, which Marissa mentioned in her talk, silent inflammation is really when we get diagnosed with high blood pressure. Silent inflammation has begun in the body. And many people go through a long time before, recognizing that they could be having symptoms of high blood pressure. They're sometimes ringing in the ears, dizziness, wanting to faint, feeling that your head is going to explode, and you ignore it. And that's the way that your body is giving you a message to tell you that you could be hypertensive. You should check your blood pressure. Just as Dr. Bachelor mentioned about getting a blood pressure cuff and checking it on a daily basis, I highly recommend that. Inside our blood vessels as well, plaque builds up. You heard about the fatty deposits that can build up in the lumen or the space inside the blood vessel. When we're born, our blood vessels are very relaxed, they're very supple, they're very easily manipulated. Over time, depending on our diet and lifestyle, fats can get trapped inside that tube. If you think of your blood vessel system sort of like a garden hose, when you leave a garden hose in the sunshine, this is like our aging blood vessels. The garden hose becomes more rigid, it starts to look more brittle. This is what's happening inside our blood vessel system. And in addition, instead of allowing the water to flow freely through the hose or through the blood vessel, that space inside the hose, called the lumen, gets bogged down and trapped with fatty deposits, calcium, cholesterol. These are all things that contribute to plaque formation. And plaque formation sticks to the sides of the walls and makes the space inside the actual blood vessel smaller. But as I mentioned earlier, 2,000 gallons of blood pumped through your body every day. And by that, it means that you don't get to change your blood supply, the amount of blood. So if it's used to pumping through a certain wide open space in the blood vessel, and over time as we get older, all these deposits are attaching itself to the wall, the size of the space that the blood gets to pass through is diminished, and that has an effect on the heart, because the heart is pumping the same amount of blood. It's now under pressure to keep pumping through a smaller space, and your blood pressure goes up. So that's one of the reasons I'm focusing on that, because many of us get diagnosed at an early age with hypertension, and we don't realize that that is a pathway into developing metabolic syndrome, which means hypertension is one of the cascades of the diseases. Diabetes is another. Weight gain, obesity is another. And then before you know it, you have high cholesterol. And those 4 pillars form metabolic syndrome, which gives you a greater chance of having a cardiovascular action in the body. There are blood tests that you can take to assess your inflammation as well. One very well-known one is C-reactive protein. You can always ask your doctor about that. Another very important test to check with your doctor and ask is for a homocysteine test, which assesses whether or not you have enough B vitamins in your diet. Silent inflammation, how can you tell? Just to wrap up, aches and pains, abdominal obesity, prolonged and ignored injuries, and also you can test the acidity of your system, because the more acidic you are, it's the more likely that you will have an inflamed system. You can check it with pH papers for testing the level of acidity in the body, both for your urine and for your saliva, easily purchased at a natural health store or from a nutritionist who knows. So triggers, things that can cause or reciprocate with silent inflammation. All of these listed here can cause inflammation, or they promote inflammation chronically. Some of them, because you have them in existence, they just continue to, send you down that pathway of silent inflammation. So insulin resistance, which means that you have high blood sugar, but your cells won't let the blood sugar in. So your cells are resisting the absorption of insulin and glucose into their cellular structure, which gives you energy. Metabolic syndrome, which I just mentioned, obesity or excess abdominal weight gain, environmental toxins, low antioxidant intake, we'll talk about that later, nutrient imbalances, allergies, toxins and toxicity, which injures your cell health, cellulite, those little pockets that form, especially a lot of women have it on their thigh area. Exposure to free radicals can come from smoking, those huge forest fires that we had in Canada last year, for example. That exposure to this smoke is really bad for us and can cause lung inflammation. Chemotherapy, as Marisa mentioned earlier, with the medications around it, that can also promote some inflammation in the body. Radiation, not just from things that treat cancer, but also EMFs. EMFs are electromagnetic fields that can do damage even from utilizing our smartphones. We have to be mindful of that. Chronic infections, like if you're constantly getting infections through your immune system. Imbalances in your dietary fats. Remember, the cholesterol is a dietary fat as well, and it can stick to the wall of the space inside your blood vessel and cause plaque buildup, which can lead to clotting of the blood, which can lead to a heart attack. Increased intestinal permeability. That means where you have nutrient deficiency because your body is unable to absorb the nutrition well. Injuries from having to repair your cell. All of this, along with emotional stress and trauma, hormonal imbalances, can all lead you down the slippery slope of chronic inflammation. Now remember, every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding a disease or fighting it. So my advice to you is to make good choices around your foods, and I'm going to help you to do that today, especially as it relates to your cardiac and cardiovascular health. What does inflammation look like in the body? I think someone asked about some questions earlier were around what does inflammation look like, or what does cardiovascular issues look like in the body. And I'm so delighted that I'm able to provide some symptoms and signs that you can be on the lookout so that you can empower yourself to protect your health, or to at least alert yourself to take better care of your health. So being overweight, of course, we have talked about that. The muffin top waistline, or what I call muffin top syndrome, that's an indicator for many of insulin resistance. Cellulite, as I mentioned earlier, diabetes and pre-diabetes diagnosis, that's a time to really take charge. If you don't drink enough water, bloating at the belly line, heartburn, acid reflux, digestive imbalances, high carbohydrate intake, you're craving sugar consistently, you're consuming high fructose corn syrup, you're not reading the labels on your foods, you're constantly stressed, you have a lack of sleep, you don't sleep well and you don't sleep deep, you don't sleep long. This can be symptoms that inflammation is living in your body. Soda pop drinking, fast food eating, margarine consumption, no margarine, please, people. Over-exercise and multiple injuries, food allergies, poor oil and fat intake. So you have to choose your oils well, and frequent sickness and colds and fever. So you can protect your body. So that's the good news. You can protect your heart. You can protect your cardiovascular system with good nourishment that comes from nutrient-dense, whole, real foods, foods that are close to the earth, foods that you don't have to pick up and read a label about. That's the kind of food I'm talking about. Food is information that your body knows, and the body receives that information well. When you start to corrupt the foods you take in, your body will receive it, but it will corrupt how the body functions. So heart-healthy strategies to reduce inflammation utilizing food. You can avoid certain foods. Avoid refined or over-refined carbohydrates, super processed foods, foods that are higher in starch, harder for your body to break down. There are some foods called nightshades. For some people, it has a chemical in it that promotes inflammation. So you might want to find out a little bit more about eggplants and tomatoes and potatoes and how those interact with your body personally, especially if you are already dealing with high inflammation. Indicators could be things like arthritis. If you're already diagnosed with arthritic conditions, you might want to consider, how do I take nightshades into my body? Do I do it less frequently? And so on. Look for low glycemic load or index foods. These are foods that have a slow release of sugar into the body instead of a fast one, because diabetes, cancer, and cardiovascular issues, because they all stem from inflammation, it's showing you that your body has an imbalance. And if you're eating well and trying to balance your blood sugar, it's a protective way to help to prevent the inflammation that will lead to those diseases. You want to always focus on healthier foods and lifestyles, and even Dr. Batchelor, so very pleasingly for me, mentioned the Mediterranean diet. It's a very good diet to follow for all of us, so that you can protect your cardiovascular system. You want to choose foods that are not inflammatory in general. You want to eat foods that will help to lower the C-reactive protein markers, for example, non-GMO soy, non-GMO organic apples and berries. You want to eat a variety of colors of foods. Antioxidant protective foods are those that give you the variety of colors. So lots of vegetables with different colors will give you rich antioxidants and help you to free the body of the free radical scavengers. You want to eat more omega-3 fatty acids and make it higher than the omega-6. So this is what heart-healthy foods, to getting down to the matter, these are what the heart-healthy foods look like. Dark chocolate is the highest antioxidant food that you can take in. I'm not talking about chocolate bars that you go and buy in the dollar store. I'm talking about really good, well-sourced, heart-healthy, usually Central American chocolates are very good for this. The dark chocolate has to be over 85% for it to be high in antioxidants with the proper polyphenols. You want to utilize raw cacao. Those of us who grew up in Jamaica, for example, or in the West Indies will remember the cocoa bean plant. That's raw cacao. That's before it's been processed and had sugar added to it. So as best as possible, you can have a square a day. Studies have shown that it has improved the antioxidant protection in the body just by having a square or two of dark chocolate a day. And it is the highest source of fiber in the world, as well as being a powerful antioxidant. Berries all kinds of berries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, hawthorn berries, bilberries. Those are all rich in antioxidants. The richness of the color tells you that the food is super nourishing for you, especially the blues and the reds and the purple foods. Those are excellent for heart health in particular. The pomegranates are also rich in polyphenols that will help. These are chemicals that are found naturally in foods. And when I speak about foods, remember I'm talking about nutrient-dense organic foods, because they're grown in soils that have been nourished with the minerals that we need for our bodies to function well. Apples, I highly suggest that the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, is still true today. Apples are rich in potassium, which is very good for heart health, very high in vitamin C, especially if they're organic apples. And vitamin C is a very powerful antioxidant. Other great sources of vitamin C are oranges and guavas. Guava is actually the highest source of vitamin C in the world. And because I know many of you know what a guava is, it's a very strongly, highly concentrated form of vitamin C as a tropical fruit. Nuts and seeds are very important for heart health because of the nature of the oils that they carry in them, the good fats. So the almonds, walnuts, Brazil nuts, pistachios, hemp seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, and pumpkin seeds are very helpful. So make sure that you have those on a regular basis as part of your diet, and you'll be definitely nourishing and feeding your heart well. Specific foods that are really great for heart health and why. So beets. I always like to experiment with what a food looks like and the nutrition that it brings to the body. Beets look a lot like blood, and they're also very good for the blood. They are also even shaped like a heart sometimes. They contain flavonols, which deliver nitric oxide to the circulatory system, which helps to relax your blood vessels. And remember the analogy of the garden hose, which is rigid and been left in the sunshine. As we age, that's what our blood vessels could look like. But if you have more beets in your life, you can literally allow the blood to flow more freely through your blood vessels by relaxing the blood vessels because of that natural nitric oxide in the food. Bone broth, which is delivered over time. So it's not bone broth that you buy in a package that has just been put together to add to soup as stock. This is bone broth that has been cooked for maybe 72 hours on the stove, or 24 hours in a slow cooker, or even in an instant pot for 2 to 3 hours of instant pot electric cooker pressure. That will release collagen, a lot of amino acids, which will all support the connective tissue which your blood vessels are made from. And it will help to deliver extra heart strength. So having bone broth in our diet is very important. Green leafy vegetables are also very key. Green leafy vegetables are rich in vitamin K. It does allow for some clotting of the blood, but that's also important in certain situations around cardiovascular health. You'll find that if you start eating green leafy vegetables now, if you were ever to have a cardiac situation develop, you would be allowed to continue to eat that portion of green leafy vegetables if you had to go on a blood thinner. Fatty fish like sardines, mackerel, and salmon, they deliver omega-3s, which helps to thin the blood and allow the blood to flow naturally. So eating more fish, especially fatty fish in your diet, is really important. Garlic also is very good for lowering your blood pressure, and it's very supportive of the cardiovascular system, as are whole grains, which are fiber rich. Fiber is very important for whole heart health because it helps to pull out, for example, excess cholesterol out of the body, pulling out that low LDL, that lousy LDL, as Marissa said, out of the body. The bad cholesterol will leave the body when you have more fiber in your diet. So a plant-based diet is very important, and whole grains are part of that picture. Beans, I'm sure you've heard beans are good for your heart. That's because they're rich in flavonoids and they're also high in fiber. Lentils, kidney beans, black beans, soy, non-GMO soy, that is, cannellini, chickpeas, black-eyed peas, fava beans, all of those are very good for your heart. Eat in moderate doses. You have to be careful if you're choosing a vegan diet because that can be more carb heavy, and you want to have a good balance to nourish against developing metabolic syndrome. So you want to always have good fats in your diet. You want to have good fiber in your diet and good protein, but not too high starches, which is why a plant-based vegetable-based diet is very important, because then you're going to get the low carbs with the fiber, and you get all the antioxidants, and that's the best way to nourish yourself against inflammation and developing any cardiovascular illnesses. You want to use whole food salt, not synthetic salt. So whole food salt looks like Himalayan salt or Celtic salt. These deliver balanced minerals to your body and allow the heart to function properly. For example, Himalayan salt is also very high in potassium, and that will support your heart health. Organic green tea and coffee are great drinks to have in moderation, especially with the coffee, because of the caffeine. Always have it organic, or else don't have it at all, because coffee is very highly pesticided and full of toxins. Remember your water, it should come from a clean filtered source. And you can always enjoy teas like hawthorn tea, hibiscus tea. They're very powerful antioxidant teas. Dandelion and lemon balm are great for stress and helping you as a natural diuretic as well. So here are some healthy oils. This is part of the Mediterranean diet. You want to reduce inflammation here. It improves your membrane composition, which helps you with absorption of nutrients and also supports your general cell function. You want to eat more avocados and also add avocado oil to your diet. When cooking, you can add coconut oil. It is a saturated fat, but it's not from meat. So that's an important contrast. It's a plant-based fat. And you also have olive oil. Those would be my top oils to suggest. The less processed foods, remember, are better for you. And then you have hemp seeds, chia seeds, nut butters. Those are all going to be very supportive for your overall heart and cardiovascular health. From a perspective of nutrition from supplementation, when you're on medication, you always want to ask your pharmacist to support you in making good choices around your supplements, or go into very reputable natural health store to also support you, or come to me, a therapeutic nutritionist, who can help you. But these are great supplements generally that are safe, have been highly studied, that can support heart health and cardiovascular function. Magnesium with taurine, because it keeps the magnesium in the cell, and taurine is an amino acid that supports the heart, which, remember, it's a muscle, so you want to support the muscle of your heart to help it not to atrophy in the long run. Kyolic garlic is fermented garlic, which has been known to reduce cholesterol, support even brain health with lecithin involved, and it regulates blood pressure for you. Turmeric and cayenne. Turmeric reduces inflammation. Cayenne can help your circulation to be improved. Hawthorn protects your heart, as well as all of the cardiovascular components, the blood and the blood vessels. Nattokinase is an enzyme made from natto, which is fermented soy. It breaks down fibrin, which is the protein that forms blood clots in the body. So nattokinase can be a gentle blood thinner if you don't want to utilize aspirin, for example. CoQ10 is a powerful antioxidant, which is present in every single cell and is very important, especially if you are on a statin drug, because it's in every cell, it produces energy for the cell and in conjunction with magnesium, but statin drugs block the absorption of CoQ10 into the cell. So it's important to take your CoQ10 to balance out if you're on statin drugs. Omega fish oils are also great for cardiovascular health. They reduce inflammation, they block inflammation, they help you to put the balance of the omega-3 to omega-6 in your body. They also help you to reduce pain and aches from arthritis. They help you to lower triglycerides and cholesterol in the body. Red yeast rice is one of the root herbals in supplementation that created the pathway to statin drugs. So they also help to reduce cholesterol. Celery seed extract relaxes your blood vessels and helps to lower blood pressure. And ACEs, vitamin A, C, E, and selenium plus zinc are working together in a formula to help you to have high antioxidants in the body from a supplemental perspective, and they all work together to help to reduce inflammation in the body. So focus on a Mediterranean diet. That's 2 to 3 servings of fish a week. You try to have 7 to 10 servings, which is the palm of your hand. 1 serving is equal to the palm size of your hand. 7 to 10 servings of plants a day. Plants and fruits, vegetables and fruits, that's what that looks like. This will deliver high fiber. It will give you the nature's sweet taste, and it would also help you to, eliminate having the cravings that a lot of people have. Sorry, I just got a little frustrated here. Okay, so avoid pro-inflammatory foods. I'm sure you've all heard, avoid white sugar, white flour, white rice, avoid high fructose corn syrup, do not use tobacco, alcohol, reduce caffeine, avoid your synthetic packaged and processed foods, and nightshade vegetables. Things that can promote heart health. From a holistic perspective, you want to consider relaxation techniques. Stress is a killer. Stress leads to inflammation. Inflammation leads to disease, cardiovascular, diabetes, cancer, and so on. So you want to incorporate relaxed methods in your holistic approach. Deep breathing is a great one. You want to get gentle exercise involving strength training. Remember, your heart is a muscle. It deserves that strength training. Get sufficient quality sleep. Each of us is different, but on average is about 7 to 8 hours. Laugh a lot, relax, take time to practice self-care and awareness. Here's the recipe I mentioned earlier. If you want to take a picture of that, it's a really easy, simple recipe. I think most of us from an Afro-Caribbean background will enjoy this one. It's sesame and almond green beans, or string beans as they call it in Jamaica. Adding the garlic is going to help your blood pressure. Adding turmeric is going to reduce inflammation. Lemon is rich in minerals. The almonds are also a good source of omega oils. So overall, very good. Then the beans have high fiber, and it's a delicious, quick, and easy snack to prepare. You can have it 2-3 times a week if you want. It stays fresh in your fridge for 3 days at least. And just some ideas around working with a holistic nutritionist if you haven't before. It's an opportunity to nourish your mind, body, and soul. It's premium personalized care for you around all life stages as your body changes, keeping in mind that it's a specific amount of nutrients for you specifically as you go through a specific situation in your life, helping to support you with your healthy, holistic, habit-driven lifestyle. And in closing, I just want to remind you that I'm here for you guys. Let me be your holistic nutritionist. Let me help you to find the perfect health solutions for you. Feel free to book a call with me on my website, www.perfecthealthsolutions.ca. It's been a privilege and a pleasure. Thank you from my heart to yours. As Herophilus once said, when health is absent, wisdom cannot reveal itself, art cannot manifest, strength cannot fight, wealth becomes useless, and intelligence cannot be applied. So take charge of your health today. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Maggie. That was excellent presentation. We've got a few questions for you. Any resource for nutrition health benefits specific to fruits, vegetables from the Caribbean?
Yes, actually, that's a great question. I mean, you can always ask me. I didn't want to be too biased to Jamaica, so I tried not to throw too many foods into the mix. But there is, I can't find it right now, but I can send it to you guys. There is a very well written book around specifically Caribbean foods that I think you guys would like. But like green beans, for example, string beans, those are famous in the islands and those are excellent. I highly suggest, if you're thinking about what food could I put into my system right away to help to make a difference, I would recommend the very same green beans I had in the recipe.
Okay, great. The next question, if whole food salt, would one have to significantly reduce this salt intake for high blood pressure?
No. So that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. So back when they did the studies in, I think it was the 1970s, they did the studies and found that there were a lot of people who responded to intake of salt, and it was correlated to high blood pressure. But what they found out since is that because your body at a cellular level likes to, you have to take in sodium and have an exchange of potassium consistently for every cell. Excuse me. Then adding true mineralized salt, which is from the earth, which is from the sea, then your body just naturally uptakes that salt without it clogging blood vessels or causing high blood pressure. They actually found out that the salt intake in the studies at the time that it was done did not elevate blood pressure. And it was maybe only about 5% of the participants, but they never corrected it. So now everyone has this false perspective that salt, for most people, salt as a whole food, I'm not talking about the table salt that is synthetic, that has additives, and some of them have sugar and some of them have been bleached to death. Real salt has color. Table salt has been bleached to death. So it should not affect your blood pressure. It's very rare that a person taking in whole food salt will find that their blood pressure is affected. But unfortunately, many of us are so used to, just like the low-fat diet of the 70s as well, many of us left out salt out of the diet because we were afraid of getting high blood pressure, or once we were diagnosed, we were told to leave salt. But it's the table salt that would have caused the problem if that's the case. The whole food salt, like Himalayan salt and Celtic salt, and Utah caves salts, those are all rich in 65, 75, 85 different minerals, which the body will receive as proper information and know exactly what to do with it. That's why whole foods are so important for us.
Okay, thanks. Can you address vitamin D, melanin dominant people, and heart health?
That's a great question. So vitamin D, again, I'd encourage you all to get a test to know where you land with vitamin D, because it's very important to try, especially because you live in Canada and melanin blocks the absorption of vitamin D through sunshine, because most of us with our Caribbean roots, if we grew up in the sunshine and we constantly lived in the sunshine, we're made in such a way that the melanin protects you from getting too much vitamin D from that sunshine. When you transfer yourself to a climate like Canada, you'll find that the sunshine, in terms of its intensity, is really only true between the months of May to, say, October. So between October and May, we usually don't get sufficient sunshine to actually change our vitamin D status. So supplementing with vitamin D is important, but also the kind of vitamin D you supplement with is important. And I would encourage everyone who has that melanin strength in your skin tone. So all of us that identify as Black people, or black-skinned people, or dark-skinned people, or copper-toned skin, or even olive-toned skin, you should definitely focus on getting your levels of vitamin D tested, and then finding out how to get to the more optimal level of vitamin D for your own general health. And because vitamin D has become more popularly known as a hormone and not just a vitamin, it has receptors in every single cell. So from a cardiovascular health perspective, from a diabetic health perspective, from blood sugar balancing, from just managing even cancer, the studies have shown that vitamin D is very important for you generally for protection against all illnesses.
Thanks. What are your thoughts on CBD?
That's a very big question.
Yes.
My thoughts on CBD, I have good thoughts about CBD, but it depends on who is asking the question. CBD is a
Yes.
great supplement. It's not available through natural health stores, but you can purchase it. You have to know what you're doing. Of course, the root of it is what has been legalized now as marijuana, but medicinally, it can help a lot of, especially cancer clients, with pain management. So as long as it's utilized well in the right portions and you have to know what you're doing, then it's fine. It should not harm you. It's not any different to any other supplemental support that you could utilize for helping to support your body. You just don't do it in excess, and you know that you get the right practitioner to support you to do it.
How do you enjoy goat or oxtail and maintain health?
Who is asking that one?
I have no idea.
Andrea is asking.
I would say, like any other
Rogers.
food that you're taking, I would say enjoy it in moderation, and if at all possible, If you cook it for yourself, then you have control over what you put in it. So from that perspective, like for example, when I make rice and peas, for example, I make it with brown rice, lots of good organic coconut cream, lots of really good non-irradiated spices like thyme and green onion and garlic and ginger all go into my rice and peas. And this is the most fulfilling, delicious recipe, but it has that bonus of the brown rice because the brown rice has fiber, add additional fiber. So the same can be applied with oxtail or goat. You cook it in good oils. It's going to taste a little bit different, but Jamaicans and West Indians have no difficulty adding really good spices to make their food delicious. So just make sure as best as you possibly can, if you're going to have it habitually, then you control it by cooking it. And if you're not having it habitually and you're having it occasionally, then remember it's a habit that builds up that creates disease. So remember, if you have gone out to a function and you've indulged yourself, it's just a temporary thing. You don't have to make it a habit where you have no control over what you're eating. Make sense?
Okay, yes. So what are the advantages of using organic foods as opposed to non-organic foods?
Well, I illustrated that in the whole talk, the whole idea of utilizing nutritional, organic, nutrient-dense foods is because they are nourishing your body from soils that have already been intentionally nourished. Unfortunately, today, for many reasons, crop rotation or non-rotation can stop the soil from nourishing your body. Using pesticides and herbicides that are toxic can hurt you. And those are the conventional methods of growing foods. When you are eating a certified organically grown crop, you are eating foods that have not been toxic before you could even get a chance to absorb them. You are eating foods that actually have nourishment and nutrition to deliver to your body. So those are huge advantages because in today's world, when you have junk food competing to actually rob your body of foods, of nutrition, sorry, you also have medications. Even though medications have a function, they rob your body of certain nutrients. So for example, what I mentioned in terms of the statin drug and taking CoQ10 as a supplement, if you're having good sources of nuts and seeds alongside that, then you are nourishing your body and giving your body back the good omegas, giving your body back the good CoQ10. If it's a conventionally grown crop, there's no way you can guarantee that you're going to get that nutrition. In addition, if it's conventionally grown, not only is it so overproduced, but sometimes it takes a long time for it to get to you in your local area. So if you can't buy organic, I would highly suggest you support small farmers in your local areas because they're more likely to have taken care to deliver the nutrition that you need, even if they can't afford to call and literally afford to call their crops organic because they have to pay a lot of money to be certified.
Right. So there was some chat going on around undiagnosed sleep apnea as a significant issue. And so Dr. Batchelor said that obstructive sleep apnea can increase blood pressure and risk of heart rhythm disturbances, especially atrial fibrillation. Any comments on how to deal with undiagnosed sleep apnea or better sleep?
Oh, yes.
From a nutritional perspective?
So sleep to me and managing your blood sugar are two of the things that we really, as a culture, we need to focus on intentionally, because interrupted sleep definitely stresses the body, leads to inflammation, not to mention it leads to irritability, it leads to brain health, impoverishment, so many things. So you really have to try to focus on your sleep. But it's a vicious cycle because sometimes when you gain weight, your organs get displaced, the back of your mouth gets trapped by your epiglottis, that little piece of flesh, it traps it, you start to snore, your sleeping is interrupted, you stop breathing during the night, and then before you know it, you've been diagnosed with sleep apnea. So it's very important that you try to manage your weight for good sleep. It's very important that you try to go to sleep on time and try to get in those deep sleep moments, and magnesium can help. Magnesium before bedtime especially magnesium bisglycinate, can help to give you a deeper sleep, and it can help. There's a thing called breathing tape. You can get it for not too an expensive price on Amazon. It feels weird at first, but you can literally help to tape your mouth shut. And if you employ weight loss with moving your body, it doesn't have to be extremely stressful exercise. It shouldn't be stressful, by the way, but exercising, exposing your eyeballs to the daylight as soon as you wake up, and going to bed at the same time, along with the mouth tape, can help to reduce the effects of sleep apnea. And adding the magnesium before bedtime can also help you. And then that should help to restore your body's ability to function well and help to ward off the diseases. I hope that helps. Let me know if you need more information.
Yes. And lastly, can you comment on genetically modified vegetables?
I can. Genetically modified vegetables or all foods, not just vegetables, but genetically modified foods are bad, full stop. And the reason is, if you think about the name, it says genetically modified. I don't know about you, but I realize for sure that there is no reason on earth why you need to change what an orange or an apple or soybean looks like, but it has been genetically changed. And if that were us and we were being genetically changed, we would be upset. So foods that have been genetically modified should not be allowed into your body, because again, food is information. So if you give your body the right information, it will know what to do with that food, which is why whole foods are very important. Nutrient dense foods are very important. Conventionally grown foods will not be as good for you, but organic foods will give you the right information. When it's genetically modified, you're eating it, but your body doesn't know what to do with it, and it will corrupt you at a cellular level and cause further disruption to your DNA, which can down the road lead to more diseases like metabolic imbalances like cancer. So GMO foods, please avoid them at all costs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation.